Hey there. If you're thinking about retiring early, I want to share something with you that I don't think gets talked about enough. A lot of people focus on getting to retirement, getting the number, getting the accounts built up, getting to the point where they can finally say, I'm done with work. But what catches a lot of people off guard is this: the hard part does not necessarily end once you quit. It's then that a different kind of planning starts. And there are things about early retirement that can surprise you, even if you've done a lot right. I retired at 55, and overall, I'm very happy I did. I'm proud of it, actually. But in hindsight, now that I passed my 1 year milestone recently in December, there were definitely some things I didn't fully see coming. So, in this video, I want to walk through 7 early retirement mistakes I didn't see coming. Some of these are things I personally ran into, and some are traps I can now see much more clearly after retiring early. If you're getting close to early retirement or even just seriously thinking about it, these are the kinds of issues I think are worth paying attention to now instead of after you leave work. The first mistake is letting a bad day or days at work push you toward retirement before the plan is truly ready. Now, for me, this is a little nuanced because it wasn't exactly a mistake I made, but it very easily could have been if I had let emotion make the decision for me. I did not retire on a whim because I got fed up one afternoon. I didn't storm out of the office, throw my badge on the desk, and go full movie scene. Although, let's be honest, a lot of us have probably had a day where that sounds pretty tempting. What happened to me was more that a bad day at work became the spark. It was the thing that made me say, okay, it's time to get serious and really crush the numbers. And once I did that, it became pretty obvious that I actually could retire. So in my case, the emotion lit the fire, but the numbers made the decision. And I think that's a really important distinction because if early retirement becomes a purely emotional decision, that can be very dangerous. When people get fed up enough, they can start convincing themselves that the plan works, even when it really doesn't. And this is not the kind of decision you want to make based on frustration alone. The second mistake is assuming that if things don't work out, you can always just go back to work. That ties directly into that first mistake. This is one I avoided on purpose, but retiring has made me see even more clearly why that would be such a big mistake. Thankfully, I did not retire with this mindset. I retired because the numbers supported it, and I wanted to make sure I would not need to go back to work. That was very important to me. I wanted work in retirement, if there ever is any, to be something optional, something meaningful, something I enjoy, not something I have to do because the plan fell apart. And I think that is the right mindset to have because once you leave the workforce, especially once you're a little older, getting back in may not be easy. Your skills change, industries can move fast. Age discrimination is absolutely a real thing. And even if you've been out for a while, that can make it even harder. In my own field, healthcare information technology changes fast enough that if you step away for a while, it's not like just hopping back on a bike. So looking back, I'm really glad I did not build my retirement plan around the idea that I could always just go back and pick up some work later if I needed to. Maybe you can, but maybe you can't. And even if you could, after you've been out for a while, you may not want to go back. For me, it would feel, honestly, like a step backwards. So I think the better goal is to retire in a way where work becomes truly optional. Then, if you ever do work in retirement, it is because you want to, not because you need the income. That is where work can feel interesting or meaningful or fun, even instead. And that can even be part of your enjoying retirement because you feel like you're just doing something that you love to do, not because you have to, but because you want to. And I'm not talking about going full time or anything like that, as that's not really retirement, but certainly doing something part time that you like to do would certainly be fulfilling. The third mistake is not realizing how much your spouse or partner being on a different timeline can affect your retirement. This one hit me more than I expected. When I retired, my wife could have retired too, but she didn't. And in her case, that made sense. Her work is different from mine. She has her own business. She built it herself. It's her baby. She really enjoys what she does, and she wasn't ready to let that go. And I'm completely fine with that. I really am. But what I didn't fully appreciate was how much that different timing would affect me. Because in my mind, part of retirement was not just leaving work, it was having more freedom together, more time together, more flexibility to travel, more ability to just say, hey, let's go do this. And the reality is, when one person is retired and the other is still working, a lot of that flexibility just isn't there yet. That doesn't mean anything is wrong. It just means it changes the experience. And I think this is a big one people need to think about. Retirement is not just about whether the numbers work for you. It's also about whether the two of you are on the same page in terms of timing, lifestyle, travel, freedom, and what this next chapter is actually going to look like. Sometimes the financial plan is ready before the household plan is ready, and those are two very different things. The fourth mistake is underestimating how different people can feel about spending in retirement. This ties right into my last point. I'm very much a planner. I like to know the numbers, I like to know the plan. I like to know that we have plenty of room to do things, especially while we're still in the go go years and able to enjoy them. But even when the money is there, retirement can create a weird tension between saver mode and spender mode. And I think that catches people off guard. You spend years, sometimes decades, building the nest egg, saving, investing, sometimes delaying gratification, watching those accounts grow, being careful. Then one day retirement arrives, and suddenly the whole point is that the money is there to support your life. Now, that sounds simple. In real life, it does not always feel simple. For a lot of us, shifting from accumulation mode to actually using the money is mentally harder than expected. And if two people are wired differently around money, that can be even trickier. And this is something I've really discovered more clearly in retirement. In our case, my wife is generally more comfortable spending than I am. And that probably surprises folks because I'm the one who knows the numbers and knows that we have room, but I'm also the one who did all the investing, the retirement planning, the budgeting, all of that for us. That's not my wife's forte, nor did she have any interest in it, and that's okay. But because I did all the planning and saving, it naturally made shifting out of saver mode harder for me than I expected. My wife is more naturally able to say, hey, we worked hard for this, let's enjoy it. And I'm more likely to be the one thinking, yeah, but do we really want to spend that much? So this is something we've really had to talk through. And I know for me, I do need to get more comfortable spending in retirement. That is still a work in progress. It has just been a hard shift for me to make mentally after so many years of being the saver and planner. But I'm confident I'll get there. But this is really something that's important to talk about with your partner or spouse because retirement is not just about whether you can afford to spend, it's also about whether you feel comfortable spending. The fifth mistake is forgetting how uncomfortable big surprise expenses can still feel, even when you have the money. And this one is important because I do think a lot of retirement content makes it sound like once you're retired and financially secure, surprise expenses just kind of roll off your back. Maybe sometimes they do, but not always. I do have money set aside for large expenses, don't get me wrong. This isn't a lack of planning. It's more about how those expenses can sting, especially mentally. For example, last year our AC system went out in our house in the middle of summer. And if you live somewhere hot like I do, you know that is not really an optional purchase. And of course, it was expensive to fix this, very expensive. But it's not like I had a choice. It's something that had to be done so our house would be bearable to live in. This is the kind of thing people need to remember. Retirement does not eliminate those unexpected expenses. You still get the repairs, the replacements, the medical surprises, the family stuff, the car issues, the home costs, all of it. And even when you are financially prepared, it can still feel uncomfortable to watch big chunks of money leave. So I think this is one people need to prepare for both mathematically and psychologically. The sixth mistake is not test driving retirement before you make it permanent. And I think this is one people almost never think about, and I never did, to be honest. We spend years planning the financial side of retirement, but we do almost nothing to test what retirement life itself is actually going to feel like. What does a normal Tuesday look like? What does a week look like when you have nowhere you have to be? How much structure do you need? How much are you really going to enjoy that freedom? What are you actually going to do with your time? I did not really do much of that thinking at all. I went from working every day to suddenly not. And that is a big adjustment, a really big one. You wake up on that first day of retirement and think, okay, now what? So if you're getting close to retirement, I actually think there's a lot of value in trying it on at first, at least a little. That could mean something as simple as taking a week or two off and staying home and not turning it into a big vacation, but actually living a version of retired life. It may sound crazy, but you could pretend you're retired. Wake up without work, live your normal days, see how you feel, see what you naturally want to do, see whether the lack of the work structure feels freeing, unsettling, or maybe a little bit of both. You can also test drive the financial side. Try living on your expected retirement spending for a stretch. Notice where it feels easy and where it feels tighter than you expected. Because one of the biggest reasons to do this, too, is something I did not fully appreciate going in, which is how big the identity shift can be. You're used to structure, you're used to having somewhere to be, you're used to your job being part of how you think about yourself. For me, I had been a healthcare IT analyst for almost 30 years. That was a huge part of my identity, and then suddenly, poof, it's gone. That takes some getting used to. Even now, I still feel a little weird saying I'm retired. I was just on the phone yesterday getting umbrella insurance quotes, and when they asked for my occupation, I said retired. And I have to admit that still feels a little strange coming out of my mouth, but after I said it, I'm also proud of it because they asked for my birth date too to run the quotes, so they know I'm younger than the typical retiree. And I'm not going to lie, I do enjoy that part a little. But the bigger point is this: retirement is not just a financial adjustment, it's an identity adjustment, a purpose adjustment, a rhythm adjustment. For me, structure helped a lot. It took me, honestly, at least a year to really grow into retirement and find my stride. Now, my days are pretty full. I do content creation, I work on my YouTube channel and podcast as a hobby. I garden a lot, as you can probably tell from all the flowers behind me. I play the piano, and I'm spending more time with my daughter, who is at that stage of life where she's figuring out what she wants to do career wise. So I'm doing a lot of things I genuinely enjoy, but I did not fully appreciate going in how much I would need to rebuild structure and purpose. And I think if I had understood that better up front, that transition would have been easier. The seventh mistake is thinking the planning ends once you retire. This one really hit me. Before retirement, so much of the focus is on getting there. Can I do it? Do the numbers work? Am I ready? And then once you actually retire, you realize, oh, this is not the end of the planning. This is just a new phase of it. For me, there is still a lot to think about. Health insurance management, watching modified adjusted gross income if you are on an Affordable Care Act plan like me, thinking carefully about where withdrawals are coming from, trying to keep income in a range that makes sense, planning ahead for Roth conversions, thinking about future required minimum distributions or RMDs and how to reduce tax problems later on. So yeah, I'm retired, but the planning definitely did not retire. And I think that catches a lot of people off guard. It didn't for me. There is this idea that once you get to retirement, the hard part is over and now you just coast. I don't think that's really true. What changes is the kind of planning you do. You move from accumulation planning to management planning, from getting there to making sure you stay there. And that is a very important shift to understand. So if I would sum all this up, here's what I would say. A lot of the biggest early retirement mistakes are not the obvious ones. They are not always just about a spreadsheet error or a bad calculator input. A lot of them are the things that catch you off guard once retirement becomes real. The emotional side, the relationship side, the identity side, the lifestyle side, the ongoing management side. That is why I think early retirement is a lot more than just hitting a number. It's about building a life and a plan that can actually hold up once the paycheck stops and real life takes over. And if I had one final warning, it would be this: don't assume the hard part ends once you quit. Some of the hardest parts are the ones you don't really see until you're already there. That doesn't mean early retirement is a bad thing. Of course not. I love being retired early. I'm glad I did it. But I do think people should go into it with open eyes, because the better you understand the parts that can catch you off guard, the more likely you are to build a retirement you actually enjoy. If you're thinking about early retirement, let me know in the comments which one of these surprised you the most. Finally, some freebies to share that are available on my Patreon, and the link is in the description. You can join for free and download these from my tools library. First, you can download my 12-step early retirement planning checklist. It's a practical, easy to follow guide that walks you through everything from calculating your FIRE number to building a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy. Second, if you're on an ACA health plan or planning to be if and when you retire, download my free ebook, ACA Premium Shock Fix, 10 Ways to Pay Less for Marketplace Coverage All Year Long. This ebook gives you a clear, practical framework to lower your ACA premiums legally by understanding and controlling the income number that drives your potential to get subsidies, your modified adjusted gross income, or MAGI. And lastly, download my ACA MAGI Estimator. It's an Excel template that can be used to estimate your MAGI for ACA health insurance, and you can also use it to keep track of your MAGI if you're currently on ACA health insurance, to help stay within the 400% federal poverty level or FPL threshold to maintain your subsidies or to get them. And if you're interested in more help, and while you're on my Patreon taking advantage of the free downloads, you may want to consider joining. I have 3 different levels to meet your budget and needs. The first level is access to additional tools I've created. The second level gives access to those, plus ad-free access to all my podcast episodes. I'm up to over 50 now, as well as early access to new episodes before they're released publicly. And the final level gives you access to directly ask your retirement questions to me. Lastly, go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Take care and make the most of today.